We're now about to go live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So I'm feeling very refreshed this morning. What about you, Pete?
How long can we fool them?
Oh, we can fool them for a long time. I got this down pat. I mean, it's 6:01. Come on, Pete. We're all over this, buddy. We're on this. So listen, I have to tell you what I did this weekend.
Okay.
Something fun, in addition to, of course, being at the senior center. But I went to see my husband Gary and I went to see the Buddy Holly story at the
over
Majestic
Yep.
Theater. But much to my surprise, there were a couple of folks that we know that were in the show. So that was kind of fun. So right out of the gate, opening up the show was Steve Henderson. And you might remember
I remember Steve.
Yep, Steve does senior theater at the Westfield Senior Center, and we're bringing that back in the fall. He does it under grant funding through the Westfield Cultural Council.
Yep.
Had been doing that pre-COVID. And
during COVID.
And during COVID.
Because I remember doing...
Yep. He taped here.
Right.
Yep.
There was a recording that he had, and then we did an interview with Harry.
Yep. Exactly. Yep, he did that. But he had actually, pre-COVID, worked on shows with our seniors.
Yep.
And what was really fun about that was that you didn't have to have any acting talent or ability or experience. And so we did have a number of people who, kind of always wanted to try senior, doing theater, but they were always a little afraid, and Steve makes it really easy. He was in the Buddy Holly story, had a nice part in that.
Nice.
So that was really great. And then after intermission, when we got into the latter half of the performance, another one of our friends who has also been in this studio, Brad Shepard, was also in the show.
I remember him saying he was in the show.
I didn't realize that, so I was busy texting him afterward. After I got home, I texted him.
Why is my phone buzzing in the 60s?
Yeah, it was. You know what? It was so much fun, and I told him there was a guy. It was a kid. He's a junior at UMass, a theater major, and I texted Brad and I said he played Richie Valens, and he sang La Bamba. And I said to Brad, I think he absolutely stole that last half hour of the show, and which surprised Brad, because Brad said the guy who played the Big Bopper, he thought, and I said, very different roles. And the guy who played the Big Bopper was so out there, kind of in your face, that it was natural that he would kind of, you'd think he would be the one to steal the show. I said, I think it was actually easier for him, but the guy who played Richie Valens, that was a little bit more of a subtle role, and he just maximized. I said, oh man, he's my new crush. He was just outstanding. But it was a great show. I don't know I know they have more performances. I don't know how long the show runs.
How long
for.
the run? I think usually it's a couple weeks. I think it's going to run for.
Yep. And I think Gary and I are somewhere in the middle. Like, we have seasons tickets, so I think we usually see it kind of somewhere in the middle. But it's a great show. If you have an opportunity, I mean, if you like Buddy Holly songs, which I do, and you get a little bit of the history of his life.
And that's been the Majestic's trademark show for years.
It has. And it was,
all the way back to when Ben Ashley was young.
Yes, exactly. Well, I know Gary said, it's the first time we've seen it without Ben Ashley. I said, I know it's hard for Ben Ashley to play a 22-year-old now.
Right.
So many years after, he's married with all kinds of kids. And because I remember when Gary and I saw it the first time, his two children were in the audience, and we have balcony seats. So his two children were upstairs in the balcony, and they were singing every single song. And at the time, they were probably like 6 and 8 or something like that. They were little.
They're very young, yeah.
And at first, I was sort of like, who are these kids that know all the lyrics to these songs? Well, then, he said somehow it came out later on that his children were in the audience. And I thought to myself, yep, and sitting right next to us. They were great. But that was years ago. So, it's hard to play a 22-year-old when you start. But the guy who played Buddy Holly did an excellent job. Really good. It was just a great cast. I mean, just all around, it was a good cast, good show, lots of fun, lots of great music. So if you're looking for just a, fun night out, and there are plenty of nice restaurants in the area if you want to really make a big night of it.
That's true.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. It was great. So Pete, what did you do this weekend? Anything exciting?
Well, we're short-staffed over in Mahoyoka, the usual problem. So I worked a night and an overnight.
There are some things, Pete, that in the 9 years that you and I have been working together, almost
Don't
10,
really
that,
change,
that
yeah.
has not changed at all. That's one of them.
Well, I mean, I left there for quite some time when we were up at the college because it was just too much.
Yep.
And then I celebrated my future father-in-law's 83rd birthday with the family.
Nice.
So.
Oh, that's nice.
But it was tough. I went home, took a 3 or 4 hour nap, and then drove to Bristol, Connecticut. It's like,
So, Pete, I know you noticed you snuck that in, your future father-in-law. So this is
this
is getting pretty
down
serious.
the road. Yeah,
huh? This is getting serious.
Yeah, down the road.
Okay.
I mean,
All
she's
right.
got a daughter that has to go through college first
Yep.
before we can really do
Okay.
anything serious.
All
So
right, but we're
I ain't going
we're
anywhere.
getting
I
there.
already told her.
Okay.
She stuck with me.
Okay. Sounds good. That sounds great. Well, today we have a full show. So we have, first of all, let me tell you, May is National Bike Month. So we are going to be talking all about bike and bike safety. We're going to talk about the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. I'll never get that right for as many years as I've been doing this show. Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. We'll just call it the Rail Trail.
Yes.
We're going to be talking a lot about that. We have the chair of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail with us first hour this morning. It is also, May is National Physical Fitness and Sports Month. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Second hour, we have Mayor Mike McCabe joining us. So we're going to talk about the mayor's bike ride. We're also going to talk about some other, sports kinds of and physical fitness kinds of things going on in the city. You might notice I am wearing, let me get in here, there it is, my Run Westfield t-shirt because this Saturday is Run Westfield. So I hope that our viewers and listeners will be out there. I have not done Run Westfield since before the pandemic. So it's been about
been a while.
4 years that I've done it. My daughter Grace is going to be there cheering me on. She works part-time up at VCA, the Animal Hospital on Montgomery Road, and there's somebody there that's going to be running. She's preparing, I think, for a triathlon. So I'm sure she'll be way ahead of me.
God
but anyway,
bless.
yes, exactly. But Grace said, well, so that the whole staff from the VCA is going to be there. And Grace said, well, I was going to be there anyway. My mom's running. So, so come on out, enjoy the day. And remember, too, that after the race, so the race starts at 1, should pretty much, even the walkers, everybody should kind of be, through the finish line by 2 o'clock at the latest. And then there's all kinds of stuff that goes on at the finish line, and they close off the streets, and there's food and music, and it's a lot of fun. And I understand, knock on wood, unless they've changed it, the weather is supposed to be actually really nice, like low 60s, partly sunny. That's good running weather, and that's good fun weather for the for the block party, the after race block party. So come on out and support Run Westfield. If you'd like to run, it's not too late to register. If you'd like to walk, it's not too late to register. And also there are teams, so there are various teams that have formed, and so some of the proceeds go to whatever charity they're representing. So you can go online and you can, if there's a charity that you want to help support, you can join that team as a runner or a walker. So we would certainly encourage you to do that. So lots happening. As Pete has reminded us too, we have the air show coming up in about a
13th
week
and
and a
14th.
half. Yep. So that's Mother's Day weekend. So, everyone's kind of preparing for that. And I was
There's
listening.
a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I was listening to Harry's show, Rock on Westfield, last week, and he had one of the organizers, right, Pete, for the air show that was on, and I can't
Stiegel.
remember the gentleman's name.
His call sign is Stiegel.
Okay, and he
He's the air show director.
Okay, and he was saying that best to kind of pre-sign up for that, right?
Buy your
pre-register.
parking passes in
Buy
advance.
your parking pass, that's
because otherwise you're on your own, and you'll have to try to find a spot and walk in.
Yeah, exactly. So that's on Saturday and Sunday of Mother's Day weekend.
Correct.
Is that right? So
Yep.
that's the air show.
Yep.
So we're gonna pray for good weather on that one as well. So, all right. So my guest is waiting in the wings, and in order to bring her in, again, we're going to be talking the rail trail. We're going to be talking bike safety and so forth. So we are going to, I have to bring you in with a bicycle song. We have all kinds of bicycle songs. So the first one is called The Bicycle Song. It's by Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back in just a few.
Here she comes in a suit and tie, a shepherd's bush and a leopard's pie. She's marching to the funky beat of James Brown and his dancing feet. I'm gonna set your fish on fire, a pistol whipping of desire. So please do not resist your fate. I'll pick you up, yes, it's a day. How could I forget to mention the bicycle is a good invention? Sitting there in a silent movie beside the only girl who really ever knew me. Happy days but sad of face, and heaven knows I'm on the case. Oh, how could I forget to mention the bicycle? Somebody told the world the beauty of your birth. My girl, I heard it first. The beauty of your verse. A sticky finger and a wicked taste. Got a lot of nerve and a lyrical case. Be sure to write it in your book. I promise not to look. I wanna smell your sunny face. A funny place, but it's never a waste. I'd hop this fence to make amends. I hope this movie never ends. How could I forget to mention the bicycle is a good invention? Make it up, making you my business. A funny buttercup, gotta live a forgiveness. Happy days, but sad of face, and heaven knows I'm on the case. So how could I forget to mention the bicycle? Somebody told the world the beauty of your verse. My girl, I heard it first. The beauty of your verse. Somebody told the world the beauty of your verse. My girl, I heard it first. The beauty of your verse.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:14. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. We have Pete Coles, our chairman of the board, back behind the glass over there. And my guest this morning is Carmel Stager. Did I say that right? I pronounced that right, Carmel.
Thanks, Tina.
You're welcome. And Carmel is chair of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. That is such a mouthful. And before you came on, I was saying to Pete, for as many years as I've done this show, and we're going to be hitting we're heading into our 10th year.
Wow.
Every time I have to say that, Columbia Greenway Rail Trail, mess it up. But so I have to keep looking down at my cheat sheet here. So Carmel, before we get started, I did mention when I first came on this morning, we opened the show, May is National Bike Month, which is why I have invited you here this morning. So let's talk, I want to talk a little bit about May being Bike Month, and then we're going to talk a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, a little bit about how you ended up as chair of the Friends of the Rail Trail group. So let's start with the fact that May is National Bike Month. Bicycling is one of the best ways to stay in shape, see the sights, save money on gas, and reduce pollution. The benefits are well known to cycling enthusiasts and local leaders nationwide who have created bike-friendly communities, complete with paths, special bicycle parking areas, and other conveniences. National Bike Safety Month in May is just one way we celebrate our love to ride. Bicyclists must take extra precautions when they ride. They often share the road with vehicles, which can create a host of hazards. With about 80 million bike riders sharing the road with millions of motorized vehicles, the importance of safety precautions in traffic cannot be overstated. Use your head, protect your noggin. Cyclists who wear a helmet reduce their risk of head injury by an estimated 60% and brain injury by 58%. That statistic makes sense when you consider the first body part to fly forward in a collision is usually the head. And with nothing but skin and bone to protect the brain, the results can be fatal. Helmets must meet federal safety standards and should fit securely. Follow these rules to keep safe. Get acquainted with traffic laws. Cyclists must follow the same rules as motorists. Ride single file in the direction of traffic and watch for opening car doors and other hazards. Use hand signals when turning and use extra care at intersections. Before entering traffic, stop and look left, right, left again, and over your shoulder. Wear bright clothing and ride during the day. If night riding can't be avoided, wear reflective clothing and make sure the bike is equipped with reflectors on the rear, front, pedals, and spokes. And now you even have to have lights. So we're going to talk about more of each of these, and Carmel's really going to get into detail. And then finally, a horn or bell and a rear view mirror, as well as a bright headlight is also recommended. So those are that's the introduction, but we're going to get into all of that, right, Carmel? So we're going to talk more about that. So let's start, before we get into all the particulars of some of the things that I brought up today. Carmel, this is your first time on the show. So whenever I have someone on for the first time and our viewing audience doesn't know them, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you from Westfield? Did you grow up here? How did you get involved in the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail?
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
And thank you for making those safety points about bike riding, Tina.
Yeah.
They are really, really important. I did grow up here in Westfield, and I live with my husband now. We have 3 grown children. Okay. I have 3 growing up grandchildren. Aww. And I retired last year. So I've worked all my life as a social worker, and what drew me to the rail trail was kind of twofold. I was really very much wanting to participate in helping Westfield have access to bikeable and non-vehicular friendly routes throughout the city, that there should be some equity in neighborhoods and in sections of our city that people don't live near a park, or they might not live near a bike path. And it was something that I and my husband also committed to. We're both members of the Friends of Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. We're both on the board. So that was it. And then the other thing is just being in social work and in the healthcare field. I knew when I retired I wanted to do something that was much more movement-oriented. We tend to spend, like many other careers and disciplines, we tend to spend a lot of our time sitting and listening to people and looking at a screen, and I really wanted to do something that was energizing.
Yeah.
And so I chose a few things that, like the the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail that really needs attention and, making sure people know about it and being up there and kind of the eyes and ears.
So, Carmel, I have to ask, only from one social worker to another, what kind of social work were you doing? Where were you working?
I've worked in behavioral health all my life, and more specifically in psychiatry and substance abuse. So I worked for many years at Noble Hospital. In fact, when they first opened up the psychiatric unit in, I think it was 1981.
Okay.
Then I started there right out of college, yes. And then I worked my way up and went back to grad school. And then I went over and I was the manager of a partial program over at Holyoke Medical Center. Okay. And then about 25 years ago, I went to work for Tufts Health Plan. Okay. And I took my clinical and administrative skills from that, and then I worked in their behavioral health department, interacting with providers and with hospitals around patient care, quality metrics and utilization. So that's what I wrapped up then last year.
That's amazing. That's a great career. So thank you for doing that, because social workers are often in my opinion, the unsung heroes. So thank you for that. And that's a field right now that is just so in desperate need of good quality workers.
Yes, we need more people who are
such a need.
Right, committed to the whole helping practice and profession. And it's really something that I knew back then, and I still know that you can be many different kinds of a social worker, and it's just like the field is so varied that I do hope people continue to go to school for it and train to become great social workers.
Yeah, for sure. So did you get involved with the Rail Trail group while you were still working, or is that something that you kind of transitioned into after you retired?
No, I did. I got involved with it probably 5 years ago. And then there was some turnover on the board, and I became the vice president, and Joe Jafune, who was my predecessor, he was in that role as the chair for several years and kind of took me under his wing. And he has a really, really busy business, but I started as the chair maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
And Joe was on this show.
Oh,
for the same, when I went back and kind of looked. In fact, the bicycle safety notes, I had to go back because I was like, well, I know Joe was on my show a couple of times. I usually would do the same thing. I would have him on early in May so that we could talk about, bike safety. But interestingly, I think the first time that Joe was on the show, the bike trail was new, and there were lots of parts of it that were not finished, and there were, all kinds of things. It was still sort of in its infancy. So
yes, and he's a great historian. He just knows, he's encyclopedically about the canals and about the early development of transportation along the New Haven and Northampton Canal, and then how it impacted Westfield. So he's a great guy and has always been really resourceful in those presentations.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So, Carmel, let's start by talking a little bit about, May is National Bike Month and bike safety and so forth. So what is Massachusetts doing about that? I mean, this is really sort of a national, program, but specifically, Massachusetts and Westfield, and kind of what are some of the things that your group and that the Rail Trail group would like to, sort of get the word out to citizens about National Bike Month?
Yeah, the word, Tina, is that every year, quite simply, Massachusetts residents and bike commuters come together to celebrate human-powered two-wheel transportation during Bay State Bike Month. And so the month of May celebrates bicycles from Cape Cod all the way out to the Berkshires. There's lots and lots of events going on. And the whole idea is that, people, whether you're an active cyclist or that bicycle is, hanging out in your garage with flat tires and you really have thought about getting back on it, and everybody in between, that you'll maybe take a little time, now that the weather is finally warming up a little bit, to get out on your bike and to enjoy just some of the great roads that we have and the bike trails, and even check out other communities and see what they have going on. And so I did have a chance to check this morning at Bay State Bike Month. That is their website. It's baystatebikemonth.org.
Okay.
And it's just so easy to go in and check on events that are happening nearby. And for instance, they have some events up in Northampton. They have a big breakfast. Many of the bike rides will go by places like the Tandem Bakery in East Hampton, So what they also want to do is that they want to encourage riders throughout the Commonwealth to not only organize bike-centric events, but also to raise awareness about bicycle transportation, including educating parents, adults, and children on riding and operating bikes safely in our streets and thoroughfares.
Yeah. I think, that brings up a couple of issues for me. Number one, you'll laugh at this, but when we built the new senior center, so we've now been in there for 7.5 years, and I can remember that we put a bike rack in, and one of the builders said to me, well, we put that in there, but that will never get used. And I said, oh, el contraire. Because even at the old senior center, I had a couple of people that rode. I have one gentleman who comes, we do curbside daily lunches, and he comes through on his bicycle to get his lunch every day. And that is his mode of transportation. So if it's raining, he just wears a raincoat. So I think, and the other thing I think about cycling is that it really is multi-generational.
It is.
You can have grandma and grandpa and the grandkids and the adult children and everybody in between.
Yes.
You can have people with disabilities. I mean, it is really all encompassing, which I think is so really, that's exciting.
Yeah, especially with electric assisted bike. But the senior center is only, I think it's less than a half a mile from the bike trail.
Exactly.
And so I always think of that and hope that there might be like a walking group or a riding group that would go up there and just see. Some people in Westfield, Tina, you would be surprised to know, have not even been on the bike trail.
Oh, yeah.
And I just try to describe to them what it's like to walk down and how peaceful it is.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so, I run the bike trail.
Okay,
But my husband cycles. I run. He gave up running and took up cycling a few years ago, and he's done the bike trail, and he's done some other trails. I mean, he just did last year in October, he got together with a group. There were 7 of them. We all went to high school together, and they cycled from Pittsburgh to Maryland or Delaware, somewhere in there. Yeah. So it was like a multiple day kind of thing.
Yeah.
All on a rail trail. He said it was fabulous. So they finished, and I said, well, and not everybody was in the same physical condition, but they had kind of, they did fine, and they paced themselves so they knew what they were going to do. And I said to Gary, well, how did it go at the end? And he said, well, apparently everybody thought it was great because they've all started, looking into, well, where do we want to, where's the next trail that we want to do? Yeah. So I think that's exciting. One of the things that I really want to spend a few minutes talking about, Carmel, and we talked a little, I gave sort of this laundry list of cycling and safety. One of my biggest things are helmets. I am a helmet fanatic.
Yeah.
And I think anybody, whether you're a social worker, if you've worked in the medical field, if you worked in the ED, and you've seen head injury, know what can happen. And I am a firm believer that using helmets start at an early age.
Yes.
I think parents need to instill that in your children. And I've told this story before on air, but I have a daughter now who's 32. But when Grace was about 4, we lived on a cul-de-sac. We live in West Springfield. There were a ton of kids in our neighborhood. And, my husband and I were adamant that Grace was going to wear a helmet. And basically all the parents got together and we said, look, it's going to be all or nothing. Because if Gary and Tina make Grace wear a helmet, but, Debbie and Mike don't make Kara and Andrew wear a helmet, that we're going to have problems. So all the parents agreed, nope. If anything on wheels. So, because we had a really sports-oriented street, and they were all different ages. Yeah. So whether you were on a bike, whether you were on rollerblades, whether you were, whatever, anything that had to do with wheels, you had to have a helmet on.
Yeah. A great example of community organization there, right, in your neighborhood.
And it was just like, it wasn't, I know, it wasn't like we didn't have a chairman of the committee or anything. It was just like we all came together as parents, like literally, Carmel, it was like on a summer night, and, the kids were starting, and kids were getting new bicycles, and, Grace had training wheels. I mean, she was very athletic. I wasn't too concerned, but, it's just like, and that became our thing. And I think it's really important. So it wasn't weird. It wasn't different. It was actually weirder or more different if somebody came to visit and wasn't wearing a helmet. The kids would call them out on it.
Yeah.
So we always kept a spare. We always kind of had an extra in case you had a visitor and they didn't bring one. But I think that's...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like wearing a seatbelt. And let me tell you, just funnily, I have really bad hair, very thin, and it doesn't hold up well to inclement weather. So I am one of those people who, when I wear a helmet, of course my hair is going to look disastrous. And I sweat a lot when I ride. Yeah. So I always just look like I've been out there for days or something, but it doesn't stop me from wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
And I see people sometimes when they're riding either on the trail or even in the road, and I don't know whether it's an aesthetic thing or they don't think that they're going to fall off their bike or they can't afford them. I don't know what the particular issue is, but they aren't expensive. And in fact, you can get them if you saw some at a tag sale. If you saw a helmet at a tag sale, you could easily just go to the bike shop, get yourself fitted for your bike, and get your bike helmet fitted so that they can just fit it, so that it fits properly.
Yeah.
And it's really nothing. And once you start wearing it, it's just, it's just like you would reach for some sunglasses, let's say.
Exactly. It should just be part of the gear. You know, if you're a runner, you're putting on your running shoes. If you're a cyclist, you're putting on your helmet.
That's right.
All right. If you're just joining me, my guest is Carmel Stager. Carmel is chair of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail.
The Friends of, yes.
The Friends of, exactly.
It is a big mouthful.
Thank you. I know it is a big mouthful. And I did that without looking at my cheat sheet. All right. It is 6:31. We're going to take a break. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So we're going to listen to, because we're doing all bicycle songs for the first half of the show. This is called Bicycle Race by Queen. We'll be back.
Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride it where I like. You say black, I say white. You say bar, I say bite. You say shark, I say him. And Jaws was never my scene, and I don't like Star Wars. You say Rose, I say Royce. You say God, give me a choice. Say Lord, I say Christ. I don't believe in Peter Pan, Frankenstein, or Superman. All I wanna do is bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. Races are coming your way, so forget all your duties. Oh yeah. Rock bottom girls, they'll be riding today, so look out for those beauties. Oh yeah. On your marks, get set, go. Bicycle race, bicycle race, bicycle race. Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, 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 bicycle. I want a bicycle race. You say Coke, I say Kane. You say John, I say Wayne. Hot dog, I say Cooler Man. I don't want to be the president of America. You say Smile, I say Cheese. Cartier, I say Please. Income tax, I say Jesus. I don't want to be a candidate for Vietnam or Watergate. 'Cause all I want to do is bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle. Come on, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride it where I like.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest Ace dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rocky's, rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:35. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. And in the studio this morning is Carmel Stager. Carmel is the chair of the Columbia Greenway, Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. That is like really this long thing that takes up my whole cheat sheet here. So welcome back, Carmel. We've talked a little bit about bike safety. May is National Bike Month and Bike Safety Month. So I'm curious to know what's Westfield doing specifically for, sort of Bike Month and over the next couple months, because there's a big event happening in June. Yeah. So we're gonna do a little sneak preview so people can mark their calendar. So what's Westfield up to?
Yeah, we have a lot going on.
Okay, great.
But both in the Commonwealth and especially Westfield to celebrate May Bike Month and other activities on the rail trail. So there are two events that the Friends of Columbia Greenway Rail Trail are organizing. The first one is the Ride of Silence. The Ride of Silence takes place every year across the country in participating communities on June 17th. Okay. So the Ride of Silence will traverse and unite the globe as nothing before it. Cyclists will take to the roads in a silent procession to honor cyclists who have been killed or injured while cycling on public roadways. And unfortunately, although cyclists have a legal right to share the road with motorists, the motoring public isn't often aware of these rights and sometimes not aware of the cyclists themselves because they're distracted. So the Ride of Silence is a free ride. It asks that cyclists to ride no faster than 12 miles an hour, wear helmets, follow the rules of the road, and remain silent during the ride, which I can tell you is the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
The ride also aims to raise awareness of the motorists, police, and city officials that cyclists have a legal right to the public roadways. So the ride is also a chance to show respect for and honor the lives of those who have been killed or injured.
Yep.
So this year, as in years past, the ride will start at the Westfield Middle School on West Silver Street, at 7 p.m. and travel west up Silver Street and to Western Ave, turning around a little bit like in the Juniper Park parking lot at Westfield State University, and then return to the middle school. It's a really beautiful ride. I've ridden it many years. It doesn't take a lot of exertion, as I've just described to you, but it's just a very solemn and, just
powerful.
Powerful way to be together and to honor the people who have been injured or died on their bicycle by being struck by a vehicle, and also just to note to the public that cyclists are out there and they have just as much access and right to be riding in the road safely as motorists do.
Right, okay.
So the other activity that will be happening the next week is on the 24th, and we have the Mayor's Ride, 24th of May, that is. So we have the Mayor's Ride. We're joining Mayor Mike McCabe at City Hall. City officials will be there too, and Friends of Columbia Greenway Rail Trail on a bike ride through Westfield and on the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. So the round-trip ride will leave from the City Hall, as I've said, shortly after 5:30. It's really family-friendly. All ages and abilities are welcome. There's usually a police escort, as there will be for the Ride of Silence. And the rules of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail are posted on the trail website, columbiagreenway.org, and will be followed. Helmets for this event are also highly recommended.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really nice ride, and there'll be a food truck, I believe, back in City Hall for anybody who
Yes,
works
I
up
believe so. And
little bit of a hunger.
Right, we're going to have the mayor on a second hour. So
Oh, good.
Yeah, so he's
That's
going to
great.
talk all about his bike ride. So that's on Wednesday, May 24th at 5:30,
Yep.
starting at City Hall. And just to clarify, the ride to remember is excuse me, is the week before.
It is the week before.
So it's
June,
May?
It's May 17th.
May 17th. And
then-
what time does that start, Carmel? Do you
That
know?
starts at 7 p.m.
Oh, it's 7.
Yes,
okay.
yeah, that's
and
a
that's
little later.
And so people are meeting in the middle school.
Right, show
parking
up at
lot.
about 6:45, park at the middle school parking lot. There will be a group assembling out in front, and there will be a leader, and there will be somebody behind so that the whole group can stay together.
Okay.
So a leader and a sweep, as we call
Okay,
it.
all right. So we have that event on May 17th. The following week is the mayor's ride. So
Correct.
that's on May 24th.
Right, and then
Okay.
to wrap up the month, we have partnered with the Kiwanis Club, and
Okay.
we have participated in donated funds so that they have been able to purchase 225 helmets that will be distributed to school children at Abner, Franklin, Highland, and Paper Mill schools.
God, that's awesome.
So that and some
Is that
bike
new? Is
safety.
that I've not heard of? Is that the first time they're doing it, or have they done it
No.
before? But it's been quieter.
It has been quieter over the past few years
Okay.
for all the reasons that we understand, pandemic related.
Yep.
But now they are able to organize this again, and it's really,
great.
It's just a great way to encourage, as we were talking about. One of the hallmarks is that wearing a helmet when you get on a bike is so key
Yep.
to being safe.
Yeah, it sure is. And
Yep.
sometimes we're lucky to have people that donate bikes and so forth to children, especially children in need. But we can't forget about that helmet. If we're going to give them the toy, we need to.
That's right. And
give
the
them
freedom. Yep.
Yes, and we need to give them the accessories. So
Right.
So that sounds awesome. I think this is probably a good time to take a little break, because when we come back, we have some other things. We're going to talk about the Safe Streets Initiative. We're going to talk about some new vulnerable, this is another mouthful. What is that? Vulnerable users
Yep.
laws. Something,
Right.
Yeah. So a lot going. Vulnerable road users laws.
That's
which
right.
is a mouthful. But we're going to talk about what that is and what that means, and then we're going to top it all off at the top of the hour with you talking about your big special event in
That's right.
June that's coming up. So my guest this morning, if you're just joining us, is Carmel Stager. Carmel is chair of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. I got it right.
You
right?
did.
I did it. Okay.
It's perfect.
You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC cable channel 15. So to wrap up my bicycle songs, we just had to do this especially for my older listeners and viewers. We're going to listen to Nat King Cole singing Bicycle Built for Two.
Oh, I love that.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage, I can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. We'll leave when the ball is over, get married in the clover, and you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two. On a bicycle built for two. On a bicycle built for two.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:45. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with Carmel Stager, chair of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. Got that all in. So, Carmel, we've talked a little bit about May is National Bike Month and Bike Safety Month. We've talked a little bit about some of what's happening in Westfield during the next month or so. What is going on with the actual rail trail in Westfield? Because there are some exciting things happening or starting to happen that we can all look forward to.
That's right, Tina. It's been a long time in coming, and it's
yeah,
it's taken a very active village and constant advocacy and communication with our city officials, and that support too that we've gotten from them. But next month, the trail will be completed. The New England Infrastructure is the contractor, and you can see them most specifically now up by the Elm Street Bridge, where they're finishing a lot of detail on that bridge. It'll be a stopping point that allows you to look north and south, and will have benches, and it has some architectural features. That part of the trail is 2 train tracks wide, so that's why it's going to be used more as like a stopping point.
Okay.
And they have a lot of work that they have been doing there. So public access will be available to people in the next several weeks. We don't have a hard and fast date yet.
Yep.
They still have a punch list that they're finishing other things, but when we were up there last week, we have some historical signs that we're going to be putting up there, 6 historical signs that talk about the history of Westfield. So it'll be opening, and then in June, on June 17th, which is a Saturday, from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, we will be having the grand opening of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail, and we're so excited about that. We hope everyone will turn out to join us in celebrating. We're going to start at the Stop and Shop parking lot of the ramp there, and we're going to go up and then take a left, as you haven't been able to.
No, that's been closed off.
Yeah, go across all the bridges that have been closed to us thus far, and walk or roll to the Esplanade. And we will hear from Mayor McCabe, we'll hear from city councilors, and many people who have had a direct hand in the funding and in making sure this rail trail does get completed, and that it's a jewel for the city of Westfield.
Now, Carmel, we were talking off air, and as amazing as it is to us, there are residents of Westfield that have never been on the bike trail. And just, for clarification, we call it the rail trail, but I mean, it actually, you can ride a bike, you can walk, you can run. I mean, there are kind of, you kind of get in, you understand the rules, sort of the unofficial rules when you get up there, so that everybody has room and you're moving. And if you're on a bike, I appreciate the cyclists when they say, when they yell
notify.
out to me, on your left, because when I'm running, I don't wear headphones, but still, I get in the zone.
Yes.
And I'm daydreaming, I'm planning my day, I'm solving all the problems of the senior center, and I'm not paying, necessarily attention to people coming. So that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Where right now, if somebody said, well, I've never been on the bike trail, how do I get there? Like, where can people access the trail now?
Yes, right.
In Westfield.
So in Westfield, there are 3 points in which you can access the trail. Starting south at Shaker Road, there's a parking lot there, and you can get, that's really a lovely spot, especially if you are looking for something a little quieter. Of course, proceed south, through Southwick and then to Suffield and on.
Yeah.
And you could, go all the way down to New Haven if you wanted to on your bike, or, I hesitate to say run. I guess maybe if you were training for some sort of Ironman. But and then so there's that that egress, and then there's over on Coleman Ave near the Big Y, and I've seen many people who park, over on the perimeter of the Big Y, and they go, there's a ramp there on East Silver Street, so you can access it there. You can access it on Hedges Ave. There's also a ramp that goes down, and there's a beautiful mural that Artworks Westfield painted. That was their first mural in Westfield, and along the bike path anyway. And then there's the Stop and Shop, which is also I think a lot of people maybe from out of town know that they can park there and get up on the rail trail that way.
Right. And so if you're getting on at Stop and Shop right now, as you mentioned, Carmel, you have to head south.
That's right.
Because the heading north is closed right now, but it won't be after June 17th.
No,
right?
it won't be. Yeah, and
so that's the part
quite
that they're
possibly
working
in
on
May. So it will be open for public access, though everything might not be finished. And so then there will be off ramps. There's a ramp right now that comes down to Thomas Street.
Okay.
So that's not going to be far. It's right in town.
Yeah,
You
that's
can
right
come up
downtown
to Elm Street.
Yeah.
There will be one behind the mobile station. There's a long ramp that comes down there and will let you off on Elm Street across from the CVS.
Okay.
And the courthouse, near there.
Yep.
And then there will be the final one will be at the Esplanade. And they'll be parking there, like across on Meadow Street.
Yep.
And so there'll be so many access points for people.
And so now once that's all opened, what happens to where do people go? That's Westfield's responsibility, right? And then does it end? Because what would the next thing be? Southampton, right?
Southampton's, they have the funding, and they are currently in the design phase of their rail trail. It will go from their Coleman Ave in Southampton all the way to, I don't know if you're familiar with Sheldon's Ice Cream on 10 and 202.
Yes.
So that's where their rail trail, it's a 3.2 mile segment.
Okay.
But it's probably a few years off.
Yep.
And so what mystery we haven't solved yet is we still have the north side of Westfield, and we still would very much like to build bike paths, or to your reference, multi-use paths like the one up on Western Ave, so that people on the north side can also find ways to get to their schools and to get into town and to just basically have recreation in that part of town.
Yeah.
So it's a little trickier, well, a lot more trickier, I should say, because it's compounded by a very active railway and the turnpike and, neighborhoods that that a bike path might need to be next to or built, alongside. Yeah,
for sure. And, we were talking off air as well, Carmel, about the fact that once you get up on the rail trail, I was amazed the first time I ran it of how connected it is to some of these neighborhoods that if you drove, it would take you 15 minutes to drive there. But when I run, I can do it in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes running, but I'm only running. I'm not even on a bicycle. On a bicycle, you could do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing
when
you start, because they're marked. I mean, when you're cycling or walking or running on the trail, you'll see the names of the streets and neighborhoods that you're going by. I mean, I was floored the first time my big thing was when I crossed into Southwick, because I usually get on near Big Y on Coleman, off of Coleman Avenue. And man, when I ever saw that, Southwick line, I was really pretty proud of myself. I was like, whoa. Yes. So I came home and my husband said, oh, how was your run? I said, I ran all the way to Southwick today. I was super proud of myself, but so pretty. I mean,
and you can choose.
So scenic.
Right.
And it's shady.
Yep.
I mean, there are
shady,
trees.
and you can choose to run in hilly neighborhoods. I walk and run and bike right on the trail, and when I've been training for longer runs, then I've run up to, let's just say, Harvest Moon, and all those neighborhoods up there are really hilly, so if you want to get a little hill work in, there you go, or Colony Circle. And then there are lots of places to jump off here in town, and beautiful neighborhoods, and I think people get out both on the trail and then to just see parts of Westfield that are really lovely.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, we kind of skirted the issue, but tell us about, you mentioned Western Avenue, and is that part of the Complete Streets, or what is that all about?
It's not part of Complete Streets, Tina. It was a state involved Department of Transportation,
I remember that.
organized. Yes, expansion and building of a multi-use path.
Okay.
Coming from Westfield State into the center of town. And so their central section, or their final phase, I should say, is what we're all painfully living through now, coming down that, where Western Ave turns into Court Street and by Highland School.
Yes.
It has just been rough paved. I know that they're going great guns to pave it before the Fashion Flat this weekend.
Before Run Westfield. I know. And now what about, I really want to spend a few minutes. We have about 5 minutes left, but tell us about this vulnerable road users laws.
Very important.
What are they?
Laws, yes, a VSU you might be hearing about. These are laws that went into effect on April 2nd, and vulnerable users laws provide safe access to all roads for people walking, working in construction sites or on farm equipment, using wheelchairs, bicycles, scooters, horse-drawn carriages, skateboards, and roller skates. So they tried to make it as inclusive as they could. Bicyclists will now be required at night, when you were saying earlier, to use a front white light and a rear red light and a rear reflector when riding. More importantly, just in the same vein, authority is given to municipalities to alter their speed limits for cars in thickly settled areas from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour, both on state-controlled roads and on the roads they police and enforce. So the drivers in those cars need to provide 4 feet of distance on the road when passing vulnerable users. Motorists may cross a double yellow center line, but only to pass that vulnerable user, and only if another car wasn't oncoming.
Right. It's kind of like the slow down law. Remember when they passed that? If there was a police officer or somebody
on the
stranded on the highway or on the side of the road because they were changing a tire or they broke down or whatever, and you have to give them enough, go into another lane if you can, and if you can't, slow down as you go by them. So kind of the same idea of trying to give those cyclists or, people on the side of the road, pedestrians, more space.
That's right, yep. Yeah. And so in the next several months, more road signs will build awareness, like the vulnerable users laws, to educate drivers and riders, walkers alike, about this. I did see some signs when I was coming over the Green Bridge. I thought I saw one, but more will be put into place as the city complies with this new law.
And is this Massachusetts? Is this national or
Massachusetts? And they have joined 26 other states in having a vulnerable users law. Yeah. So it's something that is gaining more traction in other states. I'm really glad to hear that. The other thing, Tina, is that state contracted trucks that are class 3 or 10,000 plus pounds will be required to be equipped with lateral protection devices. So
yes, I saw that.
Yeah. So convex and crossover mirrors and backup cameras to reduce fatalities of people walking and biking, people who they can't see. And that unfortunately happens way too often.
It does, but another thing that we've talked about on the show before, and I remember having this conversation with Joe Jafune. I think sometimes cyclists especially have to realize that they are supposed to be following the same laws as motorists. So that means you're riding with the traffic. Because I can't tell you how many cyclists I've seen riding against the traffic. If you run or you walk, it's supposed to be against the traffic.
That's right.
But if you're cycling, and when I'm driving my car, you're trying to be aware of what's all around you, and it's harder to do. The other thing is, I think a lot of cyclists they don't know or they don't use hand signals, and it would be really helpful if you did. I mean, they're pretty basic, left, right, center kind of thing, but that's helpful. So, I think especially for those people who are getting serious about riding, and if you're going to be riding out, like on Route 20 and, some of these, not just the rail trail, which is obviously a much safer environment, but if you're going to be out on some of those main roads, you really have to know these new rules, if you're going to be riding. And my husband was saying, I was telling him about it, and he said, well, he makes it a point not to ride at night. Mm-hmm. However, as I pointed out to him, and he said, no, you're absolutely right. There is the potential, and he's had this happen. Starts out with a bike ride with someone else. One of them gets a flat tire. They have to have that fixed. They stop, So suddenly they're getting back an hour later than they thought they would. And it is not necessarily pitch black out, but it's starting to get darker out, especially depending on the time of the year.
That's right. In the fall it happens,
exactly. So, it's just like you just need to be aware. Mm-hmm. And, and I'm sure the bike shops now are, really letting letting people know, like, we need to equip you with lights.
Yes, that's right. And that you need to abide by the same rules that drivers do, and that's stopping at every red light, that's waiting for your turn. What you were saying earlier just about looking around you, looking to your left and right a couple of times and looking behind you. When we're out riding, I'm always, if you're with somebody else, then the person in the back should always be sending out some signals, like clear back or car right or car left. There's a lot of different safety instructions you can pass to each other so that people stay informed about the vehicular traffic that's around them, and it makes it an easier ride.
Yep. And also riding single file, right? You're really supposed
Yes.
to, especially if you're on a road, a regular city street or.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot to know about all of this.
It is.
So
yeah.
it's a great form of exercise. It's a great form of, I think, building community, and a great way to save on gas and to reduce pollution. But just like with anything else, whether you're running, whether you're walking, all of those kinds of things have rules and regulations that you need to be aware, and just practical safety tips that you need to be aware of.
True.
So, all right, Carmel Stager, thank you so much. Carmel,
Sure.
again, is chair of the Columbia Greenway
Friends
of the Columbia Greenway Rail
There's a
Trail.
lot of friends of.
A lot of that kind of stuff. So we have, again, just to wrap it up, you've got on May 17th is the, what do you call that? The Ride to Remember?
It's the Ride of Silence.
Ride of Silence.
Yes.
That's it. The Ride of Silence.
Yep.
Honoring those who have been injured or killed on their bikes. And then the following week, a much happier event, which is the mayor's ride.
Yep.
And he'll be here in
May
a few
24th.
minutes, so we'll talk about that. But then, of course, the biggie, which is on June 17th. That's a Saturday, so mark your calendars.
Right, 10 to 1.
Yeah. So, and there's going to be a parade. Yes.
Oh, we're going to have
Yes,
a parade.
there'll
Yes,
be
a walk and roll
parade.
parade on the new section, from the Stop and Shop ramp all the way up to they call it the Westfield River Walk.
Yep.
And the Esplanade. And there we will have entertainment, and we'll have food trucks, and just a lively
Oh, it'll be so
way.
fun.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun up there.
And
And it's a really pretty view of the river. It's just very nice, and hopefully this will open up that Esplanade
Yeah.
to so many other activities. We've just been waiting to have that become a lively spot in Westfield.
Yep. And hopefully we'll get some people who have never been on the rail trail, Carmel.
That's right.
On the rail trail on that day to see what it's all about. And I'm telling you, once you get up there, because I can remember the very first time I took a walk with one of the other staff members at lunchtime, I don't know how many, 4 or 5 years ago. It was the first time I had ever been. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. And that was it. You only have to go up there once before
Yes.
you say, this is a gem for the city of Westfield.
Right. It just takes you out of whatever elements you need to escape for a little while, and it's just very peaceful and lovely up there.
It can do it. Carmel Stager, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you,
It is
Tina.
6:02. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back after this break.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donuts shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtSpeak, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:05. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
We will be joined in a few minutes by Mayor Mike McCabe, but in the meantime, we have a couple of announcements to make. So first of all, I have to apologize to the seniors because the May edition of the Voice of Experience newsletter was late in coming, and not our fault, but these things happen. But it was particularly distressing, I know, for the seniors because Monday was May 1st, and so we had people calling us Monday morning saying we don't know what's on the menu because we haven't gotten the newsletter. And I had one woman who said to me, "You didn't put it in the bin," and I said because I didn't have it.
We didn't get it.
I said
yet, right?
I can't put out there. I mean, I was at the senior center Saturday morning, bright and early, and there was my empty bin. So we apologize for that. But I do want to thank the folks at the Tech Center because they did get it on the website. They usually don't put it up until Monday morning, but Kevin Berrien had it up for me, I think, Sunday morning. So thank you for that. Anyway, probably the biggest piece of news for this week and the thing that people need to pay attention to, it's right on the front page. On Wednesday, today, we have a late opening. We are doing our volunteer recognition breakfast. So we won't be opening the senior center today until 12:30. So all of the morning programs are canceled for the recognition luncheon. We do this annually. This is an opportunity for us to thank our volunteers. We have close to, I think we've got about 75 or so, regular volunteers who have put in a lot of hours for us. So that's the big news that people really need to kind of pay attention to. But we have all kinds of things, events happening. As you and I talked, Pete, we've got, we're heading into that time of the year. So we've got Mother's Day coming up. Father's Day coming up.
Busy.
It is
Graduations.
busy. Graduations. Pete,
All
of course.
kinds.
Pete, of course, talked about the air show. So we have all kinds of events. So please make sure that you do pick up your copy of the Voice of Experience newsletter. For those of you who, can't get to the senior center when we're open, remember that and I know there were people all weekend driving up, checking the bin, because a lot of my seniors know that we have them in. There's a bin.
As soon as they come in, they go in the bin.
Yep, and the bin is outside, so you don't even have to come in the building. I always tell people, and they do, they send their grandkids, run down to the senior center and get me 2 copies of the newsletter, which is fine. So they are in the bin now. We have all the newsletters set to go. If you come through curbside lunches, if you come into the building, of course, you'll get them, and they are at all of our local pharmacies. They're at the Athenaeum. They're at the hospital. And all the senior housing. So, and including Hampton Village and Liberty Manor. So we have some volunteers who get them up there for us. The Friends Group is going to be doing a 50-50 month-long 50-50 drawing. And this year what they're doing is we're spanning it between Mother's Day and Father's Day. So if you're looking for a nice gift for your mom or your grandmother.
And you're feeling lucky.
And you're feeling like, it's going to, so the drawing will be on June 16th, which is a Friday. And we are going to be having, yes, it is June 16th, and we're going to be having Jimmy Maz do a concert as a fundraiser for the Friends of the Westfield Senior Center. So he will actually also be drawing the winning ticket. Last year, I can tell you, the winner got $350. We raised $700 for the month. This year, my goal is to raise $1,000 so that the winner gets $500. And we also have some gift cards. So it's not just one winner. We'll have some other gift cards. So we'll have other people. So that's going to be going on starting next week on May 8th. We've got our All-American Mother's Day Curbside Extravaganza, which we'll be doing at the end of the month, and we'll have entertainment outside, snaking people through the parking lot. There's also an update in the newsletter on what's happening with the second floor renovation project, which is well underway. It has been framed out. It is probably about 75% sheetrocked. The fire company has been in there. They're rerouting the sprinklers, so that's this week's project. The HVAC has been about 70% rerouted, so that's happening. So we're moving right along on that project, so we're excited about that. The furniture has been ordered, and thank you to the Friends of the Westfield Senior Center for furnishing yet more office space for us. So all of that is in this edition.
And if you pay close attention, we have a new exercise show.
We do. Let's talk about that, Pete. I'm really excited about that. So
it's done in the can. It's uploaded, ready to go.
It was. Well, when I clicked on the link before, it was like still in process. So we have a new name, a new title. So some of you might remember that a few weeks ago, Thomas Alves was on the show. Thomas is a student at Westfield State University. He's in the movement science program.
Correct.
And their administration class with Dr. Melissa Rohde had to do a group project. So Thomas and 4 other members of his group decided to partner with the Senior Center and to do a project revolving around older adults and exercise for older adults. Most of the other groups are working with students and children and doing some things in the school. So we were very lucky to have Thomas and his group. He was on the show a couple weeks ago. Talked about the project.
Pleased with the editing.
I can't wait to see this. So they actually came to the Senior Center. I think it was last week, right, Pete?
Correct. Yeah.
Pete came and did the filming. They actually filmed a new exercise program that we're going to be airing on Channel 15 starting this week.
Yep.
And they did it in the fitness center. So Pete did the filming and editing for that. It will be on YouTube. So we're really excited to be able. So now, Pete, we have updated the Totally Fun Fitness. Pete did that a few weeks ago. Kenny did that with Carol Palmer's class.
Yep.
And now we have a brand new program, and that will be airing twice a week. So that also is in your Voice of Experience newsletter under Channel 15 programming. So we're excited. And one final note on our Channel 15 programming, we borrowed from Agawam right there. This was like in honor of Cinco de Mayo. They have a mariachi band that played at the Agawam Senior Center, and that was through the Agawam Cultural Council. And we have shared programming with our surrounding cities
and my counterpart,
towns.
Les Tingley, recorded that one, and it came up pretty good.
Yeah. So that is your entertainment for the month of May. That's on Wednesday afternoons and Saturday evenings. And again, that whole schedule, Channel 15, all of the upcoming programs are in the May Voice of Experience newsletter. So it is National Physical Fitness and Sports Month. So when we come back, we're going to have Mayor Mike McCabe with us. We're going to talk a little bit about National Physical Fitness and Sports Months and how he and I are celebrating that because, we both are into physical fitness and sports and so forth. And we're going to talk about how Westfield and the mayor are kind of making Westfield more friendly for physical fitness with lots of infrastructure improvements. So I have my song for this. Where's my cheat sheet here? I had never heard the song. This is a song by the Rolling Stones. It's called Walking the Dog. It's hysterical. I mean, it's like not exactly what I would have thought that the Rolling Stones would sing. But, in honor of physical fitness, and walking the dog is one way to get some physical fitness. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. When we come back, we'll be here with Mayor Mike McCabe.
Baby bag, dressed in black, silver buttons all down her back. Hi-ho, tips her toes. She broke the needle and she can't slow. Walking the dog, I'm just a walking the dog. If you don't know how to do it, I'll show you how to walk the dog.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:17. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the mayor himself.
Oh, good morning, Tina.
Mayor Mike McCabe. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning,
Mike.
Peter. I know you're in there somewhere.
He's back behind the glass. All right, so we are going to start this conversation. I mentioned before you came on that May is National Physical Fitness and Sports Month. I can't think of a better person to be sitting across the table from me talking about physical fitness and sports. So I'm going to read my little blurb. And I'm going to tell my viewers the greatest thing about having the mayor on is that I can really just read this, shut up, and let him take the rest of the, and I'll just kind of join in for brains. But well, it's nice to have somebody who's really knowledgeable and somebody who's really talkative and someone who's, I think, really anxious to, to talk a little bit about how we're making Westfield really physically fitness friendly. How's that? Well, all right, so let's talk about this. So National Physical Fitness and Sports Month is celebrated in May. It's an initiative by the President's Council, the President, on fitness, sports, and nutrition. Fitness isn't just for professional athletes. As health experts will tell you, and as we've said about 100,000 times on this show, any physical movement is good for you. Many people give up on their fitness goals early on due to misplaced notions of fitness. Every year in May, the Council aims to dispel these myths. Exercise isn't about the pounds you shed or the number of crunches you should be able to do. The key to an active, healthier lifestyle is consistency. I will repeat that because I have said that 100 times on this show. The key to an active, healthier lifestyle is consistency. No matter what you do, ensure that you keep doing it. Physical activity keeps you fit, but it also reduces stress and the risk of chronic diseases. Exercise can make us less anxious and less depressed. Plus, it can help teens develop leadership and relationship building skills early on. Whether you enjoy a brisk walk, competitive sports, or dancing, keep at it this month. Even better, get your loved ones on board. If you're new to exercise, this month is ideal to start. Start small, but start somewhere. Physical fitness improves respiratory, cardiovascular health, and overall health. Staying active can also help you to maintain a healthy weight, reduce your risk for type 2 diabetes and heart disease, and reduce your risk for some cancers. In other words, staying active is a crucial part of maintaining good health and wellness. Just 1 month of regular exercise improves the body's strength and stamina. You may be able to run, cycle, or walk faster without losing your breath. Strength training becomes better, and you may be able to do more reps. So here are a couple of tips to get you started. Join a sports league or a group. Check for community sports leagues where you are, whether it's soccer, basketball, frisbee, golf. Sign up and have a blast. Exercise with your family. Depending on fitness levels, take some time to help everyone work up a good sweat. Power walk with parents and dance with grandma. Help everyone feel good about themselves today. And finally, make fitness fun. Toss a ball around the yard, shoot some hoops, show kids that fitness can be fun and not a drag. Get them off their cell phones, folks. Come on. Cap each session with fresh juices and a tasty, healthy snack. Mayor McCabe, what do you think?
I think you left out mental acuity.
Yes. I did.
So I think that one of the things that physical fitness does for you is it helps sharpen your mental acuity, especially as some of us are starting to get a little bit older. You know, a little mental acuity help, it never hurts. So I started about a month early, I guess.
Yes.
I jumped into the Boston Marathon's 127th running.
Okay.
I'm going to give a shameless plug to the Cops for Kids with Cancer. There's about 20 of us that raised about $400,000 for kids with cancer. So it was a pretty cool event. And then it led right into Run Westfield. Great shirt, by the way.
Well, Pete knows that I am a walking billboard with T-shirts for any like major event that's coming up, and I wear it on my show. So this is not an accident. I was showing this off at 6 o'clock when we first started the show. Yep, this Saturday is Run Westfield.
It is Run Westfield, and the city of Westfield has its own team. Believe it or not, we're kind of signed up because I figured, why not? Let's show some city spirit, which is a lot of fun to do. But you couldn't be more correct. I mean, physical fitness is the key to trying to keep yourself mentally active and sharp. And the more you can get out and do it, even if it's 20 minutes walking time a day, the better off you are. The mayor's bicycle ride, I kind of thought it was funny because I didn't even know such a thing existed until last year. You see.
Yes.
And I'm like, the mayor's bicycle
Here we
ride.
go.
What's that
Mine is a
about?
black and white copy, but the mayor's bike ride. Because I remember Brian Sullivan. And I'm like, okay, Bri,
And it's not crazy terrible. It's only about 5 miles. It goes out up to basically, I think, just past Shaker Farms on the bike path and then comes back in. Anybody of any talent level experience can really pull it off. There's no race involved. It's just a kind of nice country ride. And there's so many benefits to riding a bike that you don't get when you're out in the car. You get to see things, hear things, smell things. The flowers are out now. Don't mind the allergies, but the flowers are out, and it's a pretty nice time to be out and enjoying the weather.
And I think the other thing too is because of where that route will take you, because you're starting at City Hall, is that correct?
Right.
And then you're going to get on the bike trail and head
south,
right?
Yep.
And just for those of you, because Carmel and I were talking, she was on first hour, and believe it or not, Mike, there are people that have never, like residents of Westfield, that have never been on the rail trail, but that's relatively flat. So if you're feeling like right.
So
I mean, for the section that you're going to be in, that's pretty flat.
Let's put it to you this way. The return trip is faster than the out trip. And
I know, but it's just a really
low grade.
Yeah, it's a low
crazy.
grade. I mean, it's not like like you're climbing Mount Everest. You won't even notice it.
No.
I mean, you're right. It is. But it's gradual, and you won't even notice it.
It's a piece of cake for most riders, and if it's not a piece of cake, you can simply turn around and ride back. It's whatever you want to do. It's a lot of fun. I think last year there was maybe 30, 40 riders, something like that. We hope to see it grow a little bit more this year because we'd like really to get the exposure to the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail and all the good things that's going on there. I know that it's been kind of fits and starts for its grand opening, which was supposed to be on the 4th of April this year. Fortunately, it's just kind of been moved along into June. I think it's June 17th, right? Which is a Saturday, so they'll
Father's Day weekend.
Have a little. You got Mother's Day weekend with all kinds of good things going on. The air show,
right?
The air show.
We got the air show on Mother's Day. We got the rail trail on Father's Day. Like I feel like Westfield has covered it all. Right?
I think you got it. But the U.S. Open is also on Father's Day weekend, so I might be hole up somewhere watching that.
Well, but you can do both.
Yeah,
you can do both.
You certainly can.
And you can certainly tape things, and
I could tell you from my side of the house, it's really busy. This is the end of the fiscal year, so we're trying to figure out how to get the new budget in place and working with City Council, who's been terrific to work with. We're doing some stuff at the school department. In fact, we have a school committee meeting tonight. During that committee meeting, we'll be discussing primarily possible location of a police department, the school committee's budget itself, and some, the continuing saga, if you will, of Fort Meadow School, which has been interesting at best. But, I think it's been pretty clear to everybody that, we're really trying to listen and take in all sides and come up with the best possible outcome. So, that end of it, it's still in progress. I came from a command and control, and now I'm in a command and no control. So it's
a different environment. I know it's a little bit challenging when you're in charge, but kind of not really. I mean,
right,
I think your department heads sort of feel the same way. It's like, well, I'm in charge to a point, but then there are other things that, I'm not allowed to do, or I can't do, or I have to do them a different way than what I would prefer, you know? But, so let's go back to this fitness thing. So let's get back to, because of course I am going to be running in Run Westfield. I have avoided Western Avenue for like a year. So what's that going to be like? Let's talk a little bit about this.
Can we dismiss a dirty rumor that was actually started by a friend of mine that I'm trying to get the thing done so that Run Westfield can actually happen? That is not what's going on.
No, Run Westfield is happening anyway.
We are trying to get the thing done Good news is, as far as Run Westfield will go.
Sort of where are we in the stages here? Because I really, truly have not been past Noble Hospital.
Western Avenue is paved now from Noble Hospital all the way up through the interchange of Granville Road. Beautiful. There's a little problem with some, some tie-ins into Granville Road, but there is pavement, active pavement that's down on the ground, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. One of the problems that we are running into is in all of our special events across the spectrum. Is that we don't have a lot of volunteers, and we don't have a lot of volunteers because of the social justice changes and Reform Act in the police department. So the cadre of reserve officers and special officers and auxiliary officers, which was a pretty deep pool that we had, it's kind of dried up a little bit, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. That is a challenge, and we've seen that with with some of the special events where we used to rely on all kinds of extras.
So I was on the phone earlier with Traffic Sergeant Mejias, and it's going along pretty well. The sidewalks are almost all completed, and hopefully by the time the end of June, the 1st of July, all of the real heavy lifting will be done, and then there's going to be some surface work out on Lloyd's Hill, and then a reconnection, if you will, of another layer of asphalt, tying the whole project in together, and that'll be done end of summertime. But it shouldn't be as it won't be as torn up, and it won't be as dusty, and it won't be as time consuming as it's been.
Well, it was a big project, it was. I mean, any time that you have a big project that takes a long time and was sort of years in the planning and making, and I can remember, meetings with Mark Rosati and getting community involvement and input and so forth, and it was the same as when we built the new senior center.
I think it's
it was the same for the Columbia, Greenway Rail Trail. all of those projects just take a lot of time.
I think this was the first complete streets effort. Mm-hmm. So when you look at complete streets, at least on Western Avenue, most of the folks on Western Avenue absolutely love the fact that it's there because, I'll sit out on a porch at a friend of mine's house and just watch people go by and walking and running and it might be taking the dog for a walk or taking their kids for their first bike ride on their tricycles. And you see it all the time. They've got skateboarders. You've got, that aspect of it is phenomenal. And I believe that end of the sidewalks will almost be complete by Mother's Day, maybe a little bit afterwards.
But I can remember, Mayor, when that whole concept was really new to all of us, and I have to credit Mark Rosati for really doing a lot of education of the public and of the department heads. And I can remember attending several meetings, and where the residents were asking a question. Well, why do we, and he really explained sort of the rationale at the state level. This is what we're trying to do with you're trying to make it safer for people on bicycles and people who are walking and people who are running, and not just for the motorists. And of course we've got the college up there as well, so that kind of makes it a little bit more complicated just because of the volume of
Well, people have some questions and good questions, to be honest with you, about what's going on Lloyd's Hill and why the Complete Streets project kind of ended at where the new Franklin Street School is going to be. I think it ends kind of at Shepherd Street right now. But when you look at the overall picture, Franklin Street comes to Russell Road. At Russell Road, it becomes state property.
Okay.
At Franklin Street, it's city property.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to get now is the folks on Ellsworth Street, absolutely, to their credit, did what they thought was necessary to avoid having this bike trail end in the middle of a driveway.
Right.
Well, that also meant that there was a cost savings between, its former terminus and now its terminus at Franklin Street School.
Okay.
And I'm making the argument with that and Mass DOT right now to use that money that they were going to use on the multi-use path to move it to start with new sidewalks going from Russell Road to the Lloyds Hill corridor. So that straight out stretch of land. Because quite honestly, it just ends and then there's this crosswalk at Lloyds Hill and you're like, what are we doing there? And why is it here? Because it really doesn't tie into anything.
Right. Where am I crossing to?
Exactly. So now, at least maybe we'll see if we can't tie those in together. And the Lloyds Hill project is an interesting project in and of itself because it really does tie in the lower Russell Road area back up to both the Westfield State University and to Stanley Park, which is amenable to everybody. I mean, when you see the number of people and the volume of people that are out walking all the time, it's a significant number. So I do understand why people don't want it running through their backyard in their neighborhoods, though. So you should really have a say as to whether or not that's going to happen. It happened up in Barbara and Kittredge, and Beverly, and they said, look, we don't want it here. Sunset.
I remember
right?
I was at the meeting that the Councilor Morganelli organized. Yeah, and you had a lot of people that just and again just have a lot of questions as they should.
As they should.
These are their neighborhoods.
We've been kind of assured by the Mass Bike Committee. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to get messed up in the actual name of the thing, but it's the state's bikes governance system, if you will. And what they want to do, and hopefully we'll be able to get their involvement on a project and widen some roads a little bit further up that, is beautiful country riding. Okay. So, you're talking about Root Road and Brickyard Road and Lockhouse Road. Yeah. Pardon my cold. Hopefully that goes through. And, again, it's healthy. You're out in the fresh air. You can do it with your family. You can do it with your friends. You can do it, by yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And it'll hit Sheldon's ice cream, Pete.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to let the mayor maybe get a little drink of water here. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of this Saturday being Run Westfield, I'm playing Dave Clark 5 with Catch Us If You Can. We'll be back.
Here they come again. Catch us if you can. Time to get a move on. We were young with all of our might. Catch us if you can. 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 Now we gotta run. No more time for fun. When we're getting angry. We were young with all of our might. Catch us if you can. 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 Again, catch us if you can. Time to get a move on. We were young with all of our might. Catch us if you can. Catch us if you can. Catch us if you can. Catch us if you can.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am with Mayor Mike McCabe during this May National Physical Fitness and Sports Month. Mayor McCabe has a laundry list of things that we can discuss over the next 23 minutes or so. But, you know, I think part of what's on your list, and I don't know everything that's on the list, and I think part of it has to do with projects that you've started, projects that are in the docket, projects that are sort of waiting in the wings. But of course, in order to do that, you actually have to be the mayor, right? So, you know, and soon we are going to be in the thick of election season. And so I'm not going to be allowed to ask these kinds of questions. So I hear through the grapevine and I read in the paper that you are running for mayor again.
I am, yeah.
Okay,
sure.
So that's correct. And is there an official something for that? I mean,
so I have
an announcement, or is there a kickoff event, or what do we do here?
I have a kickoff campaign that is on the 2nd.
Okay.
It's at East Mountain Country Club between 6 and 8, and all are welcome, and come by and say hello, and we'll be more than happy to answer whatever questions you have.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So, you know, people have said to me, "Oh, you should run for mayor." It's like, and I think to myself, "Oh my God, I can't think of a job." I mean, I think my job is hard enough. So I would ask this to any mayor. It's like, why in God's name would you want to continue to do this? Even though I think I already know the answer, but.
Well, there's a ton of reasons to do it.
Okay.
There really are a ton of reasons to do it. And yes, there are days that it can be better days than other days. So sure, of course those exist. But when you look at the broad spectrum of how we should treat as government the folks that pay our salaries and the folks that really depend on us for services, it really comes down to pavement, parks, and people. That kind of sums the whole thing up, and it's kind of become a little bit of a byline of mine. You know, when I ran in 2019, I don't know how far I want to go, but when I ran in 2019, we were known as Pothole City. Mm-hmm. When I ran in 2021, we were also still known as Pothole City, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I saw something on a forum yesterday about, you know, with potholes with like people swimming around in it. So while it bugs me a little bit, you know, it's funny. I certainly understand why folks are complaining about it. But when you look at what we've been able to do so far, I keep talking about this number. We put about $5 million in roads last year.
Okay.
We'll put another $5 million in roads this year in the FY24 budget. And by the time we're done with this construction season and ARPA infrastructure and improvements, you will see a marked change in the way the road services are kept, maintained, and what we're going to try to do with them in the future. We just purchased a PCI program out of the engineering department that literally almost takes the politics out of whose road gets done next.
Okay.
And there is some of that, unfortunately. But, I mean, there is.
Yeah.
You know, what are the things that should get your road paved? Well, number of cars that actually use the road, the condition of the road itself, and where that road is located. If you have 10 cars a day that are using your road, the chances are pretty good you're not going to get your road paved. But if you have 2,000 cars a day using that and it's, you know, degraded to a point where it needs some help, then, you know, clearly you're going to get that. The PCI is a pavement condition indicator.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
What's
so,
the acronym? Okay.
So that's really what it stands for, and it goes out. It shoots the road and tells you what condition of degradation it's in, or what, you know, if it's in good shape or bad shape, and that'll really kind of reformulate the focus on how you get your road selected for, you know, for further improvement. And then there are parks. We know that it was very clear to me in 21 that people were, by and large, upset with the way parks were kept or not kept.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, and
these are parks that are city parks.
Both, but let's. I'll break it down for you.
Okay.
So, the city parks primarily that we're looking at are the parks up in the Hampton Ponds area, which haven't seen renovation in some time. And the city parks that run between King Street, so where this building is, right?
Yep.
So King Street moving north to Yackham Field, to the horseshoe pits, to the tennis courts, to the pickleball courts, to the splash area.
Yep.
All of those will see improvement.
Okay.
Once those see improvements, then you'll start to see the improvement on the other side of the dike and levee area. So there's should be a natural flow of things. So you have Whitney Field and Chapman. Whitney Field's going to get about a $50,000 makeover in this season, we'll say. It won't be all up front because you got to do you have to take advantage of growing seasons. Once you're using them, you can't really take advantage of them.
Right.
Sadie Knox will see improvement in their dugouts. Some of the high school fields will see improvement this time around. A lot of money has been safeguarded and secured in specific areas that allow for the rebirth of infrastructure. So, athletic fields that have sprinkler systems with sensors on them.
Yeah.
Rather than nothing frustrates the taxpayer more. And me, quite frankly,
yep.
with either not enough water or too much water, you have a monsoon and the sprinkler system's
And the sprinkler's going. I can't tell you how many times and that's not just you. And I tell people this all the time. It's not just unique to Westfield,
oh, no,
folks.
No. It's
I know Westfield residents feel like, this is the only place. It's not. I live in West Springfield, and we do dumb things there, too.
And then you take a look at the green or Park Square, which is not a square, still a circle, but we'll call it a square if we want, and Half Mile Park. Neither one of those have had their fountains working properly. Well, by the end of this month, both sides will have, the function of water. And water invites liveliness. It invites, verve or whatever,
Energy.
Yeah. Newberry's Park. I don't know what we're going to call it yet. It hasn't been officially named, but the Newberry's Plaza will see an overhaul of about $1.2 million, which is that footprint right in the middle of the downtown core.
What is it actually going to be?
So
I know there was a ton of talk about it, and what did we finally settle on?
Well, there are two different driving factors to that park. Okay. One is for foot traffic, but the other one is for parking. Mm-hmm. So the north side by where the G&E building is on one corner, the opposite corner on the same side of the street is will turn into a paved parking lot.
Okay.
There will be also a paved parking lot behind where the park is. So that's the area from Church Street basically to the Burger Chef, also known as the John Olver transfer station.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't know how they got that thing in there like that, but okay. It is what it is. But all of that will be refurbished. Right now, it's been a hole. It's been a dirt gravel lot with, it's been a bit of a mess. And then the area that's to the north of the Church Street Commons, which is that building structure that has the mural on it right now, that will become a park area that's terraced. So that it will be even with Elm Street, and you can walk out onto it. I'll have some steps down to the parking areas on either side, the back side or the side to the north. And on the back, it'll have an earthen rise to it, which will have a cement. I can't remember if it's a cement platform or not, but it'll have some type of foundational platform that'll have a pavilion cover on it. It will have running water. It will have electricity to it. So if you want to have events such as the events right across the street's been having in Mina and Probst parking lot, which has been fantastic, by the way. But it's a little warm. I don't know if you've ever been there. It could be a little warm. So maybe if we get
some toasty in July, right?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe if we can get them some cover and some some grass and some nice foliage, little green space. So that, I believe the groundbreaking for that is May the 8th.
Wow.
I tried to get it before Run Westfield, but and have it ready before Run Westfield. But this is government, and I'm not a miracle worker.
And
even
we
though
certainly know that government can move at a snail's pace.
But I'm thrilled. Peter Miller's group and excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Peter Miller's group and Rob Levesque and his group have done really terrific work to get it done and actually keep moving it forward, because it's moved forward faster than most projects normally will.
Yeah. And it's funny, Mayor, because as you're talking about all these parks and sort of park-like environments, I mean, it really fits in nicely with this physical fitness and sports and outdoors and, just really walking and cycling and running and, whatever people do. But I think that's really important, because I think we are moving as a society. We certainly are more aware of, I talked a little bit about, and Dr. Lovelace, Akinyele Lovelace is on this program every month. And I mean, Dr. Lovelace is constantly just move. When you stop moving, it just opens you up to all of these chronic diseases and illnesses and diabetes and heart. And we, he and I go on and on and on about this.
So just so we're aware, or so that the public is aware, because I know certainly you are, if you fix the recreational space at Half Mile Ponds on the other side of the river, and you fix the Temperance Park, and you fix the rail trail so that it runs across the corridor, Newberry's Park or Plaza or whatever sits in the center of that. And then if you refurbish and retool the green area, you will create the walking space that we have been trying to create now for 3 decades.
Oh, I was going to say 30 years. There you go.
In order for people to get out and see the cottage businesses, the small retail shops that have now started to pop up along the corridor, and there have been a number of them. So it's not as if, somebody was comparing us to Pittsfield the other day. I think it was Bo Sullivan who was talking about we're always compared to Pittsfield. I'm going to tell you, stop comparing us to Pittsfield, and this is nothing against Bo. Pittsfield is a different community than we are. At one time when G&E was robust and everything was thriving, it was terrific, but we're in better shape. By a lot.
Well, and I think anytime you start comparing one town or another, they're different. They're all different. I mean, we have a saying at the Massachusetts Association of Councils on Aging: if you've seen one senior center in Massachusetts, you've seen one senior center in Massachusetts. And I think that stands for cities and towns as well, because we have different forms of government. We have, different. I mean, Westfield is, to me, Westfield has a university. It's got a hospital. It's got a YMCA. I mean, there's a lot that's in Westfield that the surrounding cities and towns don't have. So you can't compare.
So we really do have some foundational pieces that other cities and towns don't have. You named a couple of them, but the conversation surrounded school choice and money and help from the state. And we got $4 million additional help from the state on the school department side of the budget, but Pittsfield got $6 million. Well, the reason why they got $6 million is because their schools are in a situation to right? So, it's a little difficult to do these straight up comparisons, but
because you're always comparing like apples and oranges. I think that's one of the issues. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Back to just staying with the parks for a minute. If we don't provide space for people to exercise and recreate and be outside and enjoy the sunshine and their loved ones and their families, then that leaves not a lot of alternatives. And you looked at Westfield High School, and I'm not beating up Westfield High School, but when you look at it, and they had the Division 1A softball champions, and you saw the condition of the field, it's a little disheartening that's kind of the way we lead. So we're trying to do real work, trying to get all of these different areas up and running. And then I guess the last one is people, right? When you look at, a little bit about this, when you look at the number of people who have left city government for whatever reason during COVID, that left us with a vacuum of positions that were open and available, but it also gave us a unique opportunity to kind of restructure how we go about our hiring and retention of people. It was been a very, very cool experience to be the person that is kind of in charge, I guess, right? And not in charge of anything at all, but kind of in charge, right? To hire new folks into positions that that they're a really good match with. It's been fun, to be quite honest with you.
Well, you have to have, I think you have to have a vision. At least I'm always looking at things from a planning standpoint, because I'm a planner. That's the way I grew up. My parents were planners, so I think in order to plan, you have to have your vision. And I think that's where leadership comes in, and you've got your vision. You've got your laundry list, but you're, as my husband would say about me, it's like you're a man on a mission. He's always said, like, Tina, you're a woman on a mission. And that's true.
So my dad said, leave it better than you found it.
Okay, there you go.
That's my mission.
Yeah, there you go.
So, it's fun. I'm a unique mayor in that no other mayor that I know of, and I've become quite a historian, I guess, of this stuff, has ever been given $17 million and say, here, go spend it.
Exactly.
Nobody's ever had that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yep.
so I've chosen to spend it on infrastructure projects that will benefit us for generations.
And just to clarify for our viewers and our listeners, Mayor, where did that money come from?
Okay, so that's the American Recovery Plan Act money, the ARPA money.
Yep.
So of the $17 million, $10 million is talked about as being basically unrestricted government aid.
Okay.
Which means it's not UGA, but it's UGA, if you understand what I mean. But it's meant to replace lost revenues. So the mayor can really allocate that first $10 million anywhere the mayor wants it to go. And then the other $7 million, the balance of that has to go into 4 separate and distinct categories. What I've tried to do is look at environmental justice and really what the greater bang for the buck is.
Yep.
Now, it's not solely environmental justice. I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking about environmental justice and everything's being done in an environmental justice area. That's not accurate.
Okay.
But what I am trying to do is trying to figure out how to make improvements in infrastructure for a couple generations to go. So forever we've been kicking around these reports about Armbrook and Powder Mill Brook, right?
Yep.
And they're in disrepair and blah, 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 whatever it happens to be. Or for that matter, the levees and the dikes. We're talking about some significant issues from there. Well, hopefully by the time 2024 rolls around, we will have inked the contract to fix both Armbrook and Powder Mill Brook dams and fix the levees on the Little River side, which are already under construction. And then we get assisted by the $5.1 million in state money for the multi-use trail that goes from Main Street through to Ellsworth Street, down to Franklin Street, no longer Ellsworth Street. That wasn't my project. That was a project that came in before me. But the focus on the dams and levees has clearly been mine and my engineering department's focus since I came in, because it has to be done. You don't want to wait for the catastrophic event to happen and then be kind of caught, we should have done that or we didn't. So this one-time infusion of $17 million allows us to do some things we probably never would have been allowed to do before. So that's fun.
You know, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me, I remember when Dan Knappich was mayor, and that was during the Obama administration, and they had to, if you remember, there was money available for projects that were shovel ready. And, you know, that became the tearing up of the entire downtown area. But, you know, it's kind of like my brother used to say, you know, if you snooze, you lose.
Right.
And interestingly, with the ARPA money, I mean, I remember getting a phone call from Senator Vilas saying to me, hey, I'm trying to get ARPA money for all of my senior centers, you know, in all the cities and towns that I represent. You know, what do you want? And I'm thinking it was the same thing you did. I was like, I said, well, what are the parameters? Well, there really weren't any.
Yeah.
And, you know, I said, I know, again, vision, and what do we need right now, but what are we going to need over the next 5 years? And I know we're going to need office space, because I'm looking at the numbers of seniors in the city of Westfield, which has grown amazingly. I mean, you know, you've got 25% of your citizens now are 60 and older. That wasn't what it was when I started 18 years ago, but that's where we are now. So, you know, and I swore on a stack of Bibles after we built the new senior center, which I still refer to as the new senior center. It was like, I will never do another building project as long as I'm director. Somebody else will do the renovations down the road. And yet here we are. But, you know, it's just, as you said, Mayor, it's like, you know, the money literally like fell in my lap. And it was like having that vision to say, this is what we need going down the pike. We're not going to need all of those the day that we open up, you know, the new area, the new office suite, but we're going to need them over the next couple of years. And you also have to I looked at where are my other sources of funding that I can get my hands on. Mm-hmm. You know, if we need some of those positions, well, there's grant funding available for that. So the positions I can, you know, some of those I can grant fund, but the space I need someplace to put them.
So let's jump back to transportation for a second. Right?
Yeah.
So we just got a terrific announcement on the F-35s, right?
We did.
But on top of that being a really terrific announcement, 5 years in the making, I had nothing to do with it other than sign letters of saying, you know, we'd love to have you.
Sure, I agree.
And by the way, we'd like to keep you for the next 50 years. Thank you very much for solidifying Barnes for the next 50. So we're super grateful about that. But there's other things that are involved in transportation. And one of them is Secretary Gina Fiandaca's vision of bringing the East to the West, or the West to the East, depending on how you look at it. And currently, right now, the plan is to have a east-west rail train line, an Amtrak line, that would go from Pittsfield to Boston. Well, I am fervently lobbying Secretary Fiandaca and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll and the governor's office to add a stop in Westfield. I've spoken to a person who might even own the depot that actually exists, that the rail trail goes right by. And I said, would you be interested? And Mike, being Mike, is always interested, right? So, hopefully that works out. So within the next, few years, we will have a state-of-the-art military response. Our Barnes Regional Airport will benefit from that response, and Chris Willenborg's doing wonderful work up there. And then as we come a little bit further south, we have the longest tract of land on the turnpike in the state. Yeah. And we don't have a rail stop. But yet Blandford and Chester do, and I don't mean anything against Blandford and Chester. I get it. But the vision, for some reason, just wasn't there to put the rail stop in the city of Westfield. So I'm hoping to kind of rewrite that history a little bit. I will be with Secretary Fiandaca on the 10th. I won't do it. You know what I was accused of doing when Charlie Baker came in, Governor Baker came in with Lieutenant Governor Polito. I was accused of staging a traffic accident to get him boxed into the 2.5 hours it took him to get out of the city. Goodness. He's pretty much aware. He was certainly aware of Exit 41. And Secretary Fiandaca is also aware of Exit 41. So when you talk about different pots of money, Congressman Neal is also aware of the problems that we might be having with CSX down on East Mountain Road at Springfield Road. So we're working on trying to figure out a pathway forward to move those projects as well. It's been an interesting 15 months, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. And now we know, with all these projects in the docket, so now we know why, we're going for another couple years here with this.
2 more years, I think.
All right, 2 more years. Mayor Mike McCabe, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for helping us to talk a little bit about National Physical Fitness and Sports Month and the Mayor's Bike Ride. Now, the bike ride on Wednesday, the 24th at 5:30 starts at City Hall. Do people have to sign up for that, or can they just...
No, they can pretty much show up, but I would give them some cautionary tales.
Okay, go ahead.
So for those folks who might have put away their bike for the winter and haven't seen it before they actually get on it, check your tires, make sure everything's okay, make sure the cleats are still working, get your bottle of water and your Gatorade or whatever, and your helmet.
Yeah, and
always
wear
your helmet.
Please, and your helmet. I am going to, because in addition to doing other kinds of physical fitness, I love to dance. So we're going to go out with Sam Cooke singing "Twisting the Night Away." Mayor Mike McCabe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look, this
my pleasure.
Election season.
Thank you.
And we will be back next week. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15.
Thank you, Pete.
Let me tell you about a place somewhere up a New York way where the people are so gay, twisting the night away. Here they have a lot of fun, putting trouble on the run. Man, you find the old and young twisting the night away. They're twisting, twisting. Everybody's feeling great. They're twisting, twisting. They're twisting the night away. Here's a man in evening clothes. How he got here, I don't know, but man, you ought to see him go, twisting the night away. He's dancing with the chicken slacks. She's moving up and back. Oh man, there ain't nothing like twisting the night away. They're twisting, twisting. Everybody's feeling great. They're twisting, twisting. They're twisting the night. Let's twist a while. Twisting the night away. fella in blue jeans dancing with the older queen who's dolled up in her diamond rings and twisting the night away. Man, you ought to see her go, twisting to the rock and roll. Here you find the young and old, twisting the night away. They're twisting, twisting, man. Everybody's feeling great. They're twisting, twisting, they're twisting the night. One more time.
Lean back.